Noise reduction is absolutely crucial in night photography, especially if you want to create clean looking images that are not plagued with noise and a lack of detail. Despite camera sensors rapidly improving in low light situations, you're still going to experience some noise when shooting the Milky Way on a tripod. Hey everybody, I'm Austin James Jackson. Today we're going to be comparing some of the best noise reduction softwares on the market for you to see which one is going to be the right choice for you. Now, I've got other videos covering these softwares for normal daytime images, but this video specifically is going to cover which software is the best for night/astro/Milky Way photography. The softwares we'll be testing in today's video include Topaz Photo AI, Topaz DeNoise, DxO PureRAW3, Luminar Neo, ON1 NoNoise, and Lightroom's denoising feature. I'm going to cover the costs as well as my thoughts on the softwares at the end of the video. But right now, let's look at how each of these softwares works first. So I've got all my photos loaded into Lightroom here just to show you guys how this all works. Lightroom was the best way for me to organize these photos, but these are the three photos that I'm going to be showing off today. A little bit of difference between them. This photo is really bright. We've got this nice building as detail that needs to be denoised. This one, we've got this rock, which is really underexposed here in the Utah desert. And then this image here, we've got a lot of this kind of color sensor noise, this heat noise from the heat on the sensor, these little blue spots, and also very underexposed. So three great images, all of them are a little different. And I just want to show you guys how each software works with one image. And then I have all of the images that I ran through all of the softwares. I'm not going to show you that whole process. I just want to briefly show you how each software works. And then I'll show you the final comparison of the images. So first, let's look here in Lightroom. So in Lightroom, we have the option to denoise. If you've updated your Lightroom, you've got to make sure you have the updated Lightroom CC. Lightroom Classic CC is what I'm using here. And you simply scroll down to the detail tab and you hit denoise. It's really nice. It pops open this box. You can choose the amount. I almost always find that 100 is the best unless there's hardly any noise. And then you can just simply hit enhance. It estimates about 5 minutes. It may take more or less time depending on your machine. All you do is hit enhance. You'll have this bar up here, which creates the denoise, and then it'll appear right here. So that's how the software works in Lightroom. It'll spit out an image. So I canceled this and I'm going to move on to the next one. I'll show you the results of Lightroom at the end when I go ahead and show all the results of all the other softwares. Now, as we exit Lightroom here, it's important to note that these can all be launched, all the apps that we're showing today, as a plugin. So I can go ahead and right click or control click on a Mac. I can go to edit in, and then I can find everything that I'm going to be using today. So I'm using Luminar Neo, I'm using ON1 NoNoise, I'm using Topaz DeNoise, Topaz Photo AI, and then for DxO, they're a little bit different. You got to go up to plugin extras, and then you can scroll down to process with DxO PureRAW3. That's how you find all of them. So let's go ahead and launch this into Luminar Neo first. So when you load your image into Luminar Neo, you're going to see this screen here. You're going to go ahead and click on the edit module, and then you should see your extensions here. If they're not downloaded, you may have to click on extras and download the Noiseless AI extension. It'll give you advice for what it thinks you should use for this image. It advises we use the high adjustment, meaning it's a high noise image, which is true. So that takes about 30 seconds to load out on my computer. I am using a brand new MacBook, but when you zoom in, I'm just using Command plus to zoom in on a Mac. And I can press and hold on the eyeball to see the before and after. You can hardly see anything. There's before, there's after. You can see it when I zoom way in. So for this one, I honestly would increase the details all the way and maybe increase the sharpness as well. No, maybe not. We'll leave the sharpness where it is, but you can see we're using the high adjustment at a 100 luminosity denoise. We're all the way at the very top, and we can hardly see the difference that it's making. So that's how you use Luminar Neo. Let's go ahead and jump over to ON1. So when you jump over into ON1 NoNoise AI 2023, it should look like this. Now I can, again, Command plus to zoom in, or you can go ahead and click up here like on 100 or just zoom in like that. I like to zoom in a fair amount. And the reason why I'm going to this particular spot is because we've got some sky and we've got some foreground. So it's a nice spot to see the before and after. You can see on this one, the luminance is all the way. I'm going to bring enhanced detail all the way, color is all the way, everything except for micro sharpening is all the way up. And again, you can see it's all right. It does an all right job. I think it does a little bit better than Luminar Neo, but it's not that great compared to some of the softwares we have coming up. But you can see that's how to use it. You would go ahead and click the lock here where it says apply. Then it's going to render that out, and then you hit export to go ahead and save it away from your ON1 NoNoise AI. So now DxO PureRAW3 is a little different than the rest in terms of how it looks. When you load in, you've got this here, which you can double click to view the image, but you don't have access to all of the settings. So how this one works actually, and it is really good for batch editing, because if I had 15 photos, I could do them all at once, but you go down to the bottom right and hit process now. Now, if you have a computer that's capable, you want to use Deep Prime XD. It's just a better version, a little more rigorous on the computer than Deep Prime. But you go to Deep Prime XD. You can check some of these boxes. Normally, I probably would, but for this video, since we're just comparing denoise, I wanted to compare apples to apples here, and I don't want to do some of this here, or I'm not going to do it in other softwares. So I checked all those off, but normally you can check those on. You can decide the output format, as well as where it's going to go, what it's going to be named, and that is it. So all you do is click Start Processing. Then it will actually edit. You can see down here. Unfortunately, there's no way to refine this. You kind of just get what you get, which luckily it ends up being pretty good, but you do just get what you get. And so that's how to use PureRAW3. Like I said, it's really nice if you are batch editing, because you can put however many photos you want in the queue here, queue it up, leave, go fill up your coffee, go to bed, whatever, and it will do it all by itself. You don't have to go through and edit each image. So it's good and bad in the fact that good for batch editing, bad for going in and refining it on a single photo. Okay, so next we've got Topaz DeNoise AI. When you load it in, it should look like this. You can zoom in if you want, Command plus, or up here, you can go ahead and just select that 100, or a lot of times I like 200 or 400. Then what you can do is actually, what I really like to do when I'm using denoise is I actually check the lightning, and that basically applies automatic settings, exactly what the software thinks, and it usually does a really nice job. But if I'm finding that it's not doing well, I can make some adjustments here and move forwards that way. So if I wanted to remove more noise, I could slide it. You can see now that it's re-rendered. This view is the best, this split view. If you load in and it's in single view or any of the other views, change it to split view, which is really nice because you can slide back and forth like that to see the left is before, the right is after. And then additionally, the one thing I really like about this software is the comparison view. Essentially what this is showing is I can show multiple different denoising technologies at the same time. So you can see up here, I'm using raw at these settings. Here I'm using clear at these settings. Down here, I'm using low light at these settings. And here I'm using severe noise. So I can see how each one works, figure out which one works the best. So if I said, I think that raw works best, I can double click here. It brings me back to the split view and I can make more adjustments to fine tune it. So it's really nice to have that comparison view. Now, similar to DxO PureRAW3, Topaz Photo AI does a few more things than just denoise as well, which we're checking off for this particular video. We're not going to use them. It can upscale, sharpen, or preserve text, none of which, like I said, we're going to do on this video, but do be aware that it can do that. It is possible. So you can open up the removing noise here, and you can choose between raw normal or raw strong. I usually find raw normal to be the best for my particular night photos, but you can definitely play with it and see what you think. You can see as I move this now, it is looking pretty dang good in there. Certainly a lot better than some of the other softwares we talked about earlier. You can increase the strength. You could increase the minor deblur if you want, which is essentially kind of just like sharpening it. And just like that, it's looking pretty good. You can see just how much of that color noise it's getting rid of right there. It's doing such a nice job. You can go ahead and hit save image to save that one out. Now that you've seen each of these softwares, I want to show you guys the results of each software paired against each other. So here I just loaded them all in the Photoshop because it was the easiest way that I found to load all the layers at once. You can see we've got all of our options here. So we've got our raw file, we've got DxO, we've got Lightroom, we've got Luminar, we've got ON1, we've got Topaz PAI, which is Photo AI, and Topaz D, which is Topaz DeNoise. Now you can see when I toggle this, there is a little bit of difference on each image. But what I'm going to do is zoom in because, to be honest with you, like the difference between this and this is simply just editing. Like you can fix that. Really, you just want to make sure it's getting rid of the denoise, but you can expect a little differences from each one. You can see like Luminar makes it a little more magenta toned for some reason. So let's go ahead and zoom in and really look at the results. I'm going to zoom to that same spot that I was looking at before. Remember, we're looking at the raw image now. Now we are looking at DxO. You can see it's done a really phenomenal job before and after. This is DxO. Let's look at the raw versus Lightroom, which has also done a pretty good job. I'm not super crazy about the stars in there, but it's definitely done a pretty good job, especially on the windows over here. Let's look at the raw versus Luminar. It's done an all right job. Definitely nothing to write home about. I don't think you can see it's still pretty noisy over here on the window and on the bar here. The magenta tint, I'm not too worried about. That's easy to fix later. Let's look at the raw versus ON1. ON1's done a little bit better job, but still probably not as good as DxO or Lightroom. Topaz Photo AI has done a really nice job. I'm really liking that. I'm definitely going to compare that to some of the other high performers here. And then Topaz DeNoise, which has done a pretty good job, but I still think not as good. You can see there's some weird stuff going on up here and over here. Let's compare both Topaz apps. This is Photo AI. This is DeNoise. This is Photo AI. This is DeNoise. You can see there's some weird spots in here on DeNoise, so I don't really like DeNoise. So I want to compare Photo AI with DxO and Lightroom because I found that Photo AI, Lightroom, and DxO do the best job. Let's just look at a different spot on the image, like somewhere over here. So right now we're looking at Topaz Photo AI. Now we're looking at Lightroom. Now we're looking at DxO. Lightroom, Photo AI, Lightroom, DxO. So all three are really good. One thing I will say about Lightroom, at least on this photo, is the stars are almost like sparks. I like the stars a little better in DxO or Topaz. I think Lightroom does it like almost over sharpens them, it seems like. So it is good, but it's certainly not as good as I would like, I don't think, in Lightroom. And then let's compare DxO with Topaz Photo AI. So we're looking at Topaz Photo AI now, DxO, Photo AI, DxO, Photo AI, DxO. You can see it's really similar. DxO, Photo AI. DxO might do a slightly better job on the building. It definitely brings in some of that orangish color there on the building, whereas Photo AI doesn't do that. I don't know if that color, that color wasn't really in the original image, so I'm not sure where DxO is bringing that in from, but I don't mind it too much. You can see the raw versus Photo AI gives it a little more realistic color, but both are really good. Let's go ahead and look at the next image. So we've got this image here, number 2, which you can see is shot very, very dark. Let's zoom in to about right here, I think. And let's just run it through really quickly and look at all of the options. This is the raw, this is DxO, this is Lightroom, this is Luminar, this is ON1, this is Topaz Photo AI, this is Topaz DeNoise. A lot of good stuff here. I think once again, I want to just, ON1 doesn't really look that great. Luminar doesn't really look that great. You can see there's still a lot of noise in the rock in both. This is Luminar and this is ON1. Neither are very good. I'm not going to compare those again. I am going to compare the same 3, I think, Photo AI, Lightroom, and DxO, which seem to be the front runners here. So Photo AI is looking pretty good. I'm looking up close at some of this noise. Let's look at Lightroom. Lightroom, you can see same thing with the stars. It does kind of look a little weird. We've got these like streaks running through the sky. I'm not super crazy about that compared to Photo AI where we don't have those streaks. This is Lightroom right here. This is Photo AI. Now let's compare Lightroom with DxO. DxO also doesn't have those streaks. They're kind of starting to form a little bit, but they're not as bad as Lightroom. Let's look at DxO here versus Topaz Photo AI. I definitely think Photo AI does a better job. You can see there's these like weird lines and stuff going on in the DxO version that is not present in the Photo AI. So I think and I think that's just, that's just a plain, nothing to worry about there. But I think for this example, Photo AI definitely wins. It's looking a lot better. This is DeNoise, or I'm sorry, this is DxO. This is Photo AI. DxO, you can see all these weird things going on here. Photo AI, not present. So I like Photo AI for that particular example. Last example here, and I wanted to check this one specifically to see how each software does getting rid of these like little blue specks, which is the heat noise from the sensor. Look at DxO first. Definitely does a good job of bringing some detail back into the mountain here, but still we have these little blue specks everywhere, which sure, they can be cloned out, but it's definitely nice to be able to get rid of those. We'll look at Lightroom here. Same problem as before. Luminar does a pretty average job at best. ON1, it's like almost, has it added all that noise? Let's look here. Yeah, you can see it's added these specks. So this is before, this is after. So the ON1 has actually added these white specks, which is more work for you to do in editing. If you wanted to print this, you would definitely want to get rid of those specks. So that one is no good. We've got Photo AI, which does a pretty nice job. Photo AI has removed all those little blue dots in here, which is nice. And then we've got DeNoise. DeNoise does not look too great. It's added a lot of specks. It's added more of this color noise here. So it's not good. So again, let's compare the same three that we have been comparing. They seem to be holding true as the top three. We've got Photo AI looking pretty good. Like I said, it doesn't add any of those blue specks. Now we've got a Lightroom. Lightroom kind of makes everything a little too smooth. Maybe we could have gone a little lower on the denoise because again, it's creating these weird patterns in the sky. It's just creating this kind of unrealistic looking streakiness in the stars that I'm not liking. Now DxO doesn't do that, but DxO does also not get rid of these blue dots. Let's compare DxO to Photo AI. You can see DxO, Photo AI. Now the foreground here in DxO almost looks a little bit better. And Photo AI, maybe it's a little more noisy, maybe it's a little more realistic. It's hard to say. It's totally up to your personal preference. In DxO, they add a little bit of color back in here, which is interesting. Just something to note, not necessarily bad or good, but it is something to note. So Photo AI, DxO. Photo AI, DxO. So that is the comparison I have for you guys. Let me give you some final thoughts. So let's talk about the pricing of each software to help you determine the best fit for your personal needs. Now, first off, Luminar's Noiseless AI plugin comes in a bundle with Luminar Neo, which is a full-service photo editor. You can't buy the plugin as a standalone, unfortunately, and you can snag Luminar Neo and all of the plugins that they offer for $249 or about $15 a month with cheaper per month options. And the longer you're willing to pay in advance, the cheaper it will be. ON1 NoNoise comes as a standalone for new customers at about $70 for a one-time cost. At the making of the video, it was on sale for $50, but I don't know how long that's gonna last. You can also buy ON1 PhotoRAW, a full-service photo editor, which includes NoNoise, and that is just $100 total. However, if you do this, you cannot use NoNoise AI as a plugin with another photo editor. You have to bring your photo fully into PhotoRAW in order to use NoNoise. Now, while this isn't a huge deal, it is an extra step, which is a major bummer, at least for me. I like things to be simple. Now, Adobe Lightroom comes in a package with Photoshop for about $10 a month. There is not an option to have a one-time cost, and Adobe forces the monthly fee on you as long as you wish to use their software. However, seeing as though many photographers already use the software anyways, it's certainly a good option because you maybe already own this software, so you don't have to go out and buy something else. The first three options are nice because they feature full service editors with denoising capabilities. These are great tools to use if you want to find a workflow in a software that will not only denoise, but also apply some photo editing. If you already have a workflow though, and you just want a plugin, you're probably going to be looking at the next two options, which we're going to talk about right here. Now, Topaz Photo AI comes in at $199 as a one-time cost. This is the only option. There's no monthly option available. Now, this obviously gets you access to both the sharpening and resizing part of Photo AI as a bonus to the denoising, but it's still pretty spendy compared to the other options. Topaz DeNoise comes in at just $80 as a one-time charge. Now, DxO PureRAW3 comes in for a one-time charge of $130, or you can break it down into 4 monthly payments. Like Topaz, this is a standalone program that's meant to be used as a plugin. Finally, let me give you my 2 cents and thoughts on all the softwares. And before I do this, I want to mention that I'm not sponsored by any of these programs. I have affiliate links to every single one of them. There's not any one more than others that I would rather promote. None of these companies are telling you to make this video, and I get a very small kicker if you purchase any one of these softwares through my links, which I really appreciate, but I don't have an agenda here. So I'm just telling you my true and honest thoughts from one photographer to another. Now, Luminar and ON1 are unfortunately not up to the standard compared to the other 3 options of Topaz, DxO, and Adobe. If you already own Lightroom and you don't want to spend any more money, Lightroom's denoising feature works pretty well, but you will notice that some of the stars will have that weird look going on that I showed you earlier. If you plan on printing or zooming in on your image, you will definitely want to go with one of the last 2 options, which are for sure the best options if you ask me. I've made other videos comparing DxO versus Topaz, since these are definitely the 2 behemoths in the denoising game. They do the best job. I've talked with developers and marketing people at both companies. Now, when looking at Topaz, they aren't really doing many more improvements on denoise anymore, and instead they're focusing on Photo AI, which is their software they're looking for in the future. It's definitely getting updated quite frequently. If you're deciding to go between Photo AI and denoise, I would definitely go for Photo AI for slightly better results and also the promise of a lot better results in the future, since they are improving it a lot more. Now, if you're happy with what denoise offers and you don't expect many significant updates, the reduced cost to denoise is going to be a little bit better option for you, since it's only $80 as opposed to $200. Now, when it comes to DxO PureRAW3 and Topaz Photo AI, they both offer the absolute best noise reduction on the market, and I think that's a fact at this point in time. The results from both softwares are equally as good in my opinion, despite they definitely do look slightly different, but I think they're equally as good. The choice of which software to buy really just comes down to how much you want to spend, what additional features you want, and which software you feel like has the better interface. Topaz Photo AI is $70 more expensive at its full price, but it does offer you the ability to resize your photo as well, which can be really nice when you need to upsize. Photo AI also has more opportunity when it comes to making adjustments and fine-tuning your edit. In DxO, you pretty much press and play, let the software do its thing, and then you live with the results. In Topaz, if you aren't happy with the automatic results, you can make adjustments. So I think in that regard, I like Topaz a little bit better. When it comes to the interface, I personally like Topaz's interface. It's a little bit easier to use in my opinion, but I will let you guys decide that. You saw when I used both the softwares earlier in the video. Now, if you're batch editing photos and you're doing noise reduction, while either software will do batch editing for noise reduction, it is certainly easier and faster to do it in DxO than it is in Topaz. So I think in that regard, DxO has Topaz beat when it comes to batch editing. I think that Topaz Photo AI has a really slight edge on DxO when you look at the photos, but either way you look at it, you really can't go wrong with either of these softwares, and your personal needs are going to help you decide which one is right for you. Hopefully all of that was really helpful. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys are going to pick up any of these softwares, please make sure to use the links down below in the description to help support my channel. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me get the smallest kicker when you pick up one of these softwares, and it also lets that particular company know that I sent you. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.